Hi guys, I'm going to be reviewing the Zig Clean Color Wheel Brush Markers. And as you can see close up, at the back of this marker, there's the name of the color and it says clearly it's a water-based marker and it's made by Kuretake. And at the bottom of the marker, there's a color swatch. And if you look closely at the tip, you can see that it's comprised of individual synthetic hairs instead of like just a plastic cone tip or like a spongy tip. I find it's nice and it gives a more natural feeling. So that's definitely one advantage it has over its other competitors. And the colors are really vibrant and I'm going to show you as I swatch on the liter manga paper and later on with watercolor paper. So I'm just swatching out the colors on the manga paper and I have 21 colors. I actually didn't get a set because I only got these open stock in an event, and later on in the demo, I found that I didn't really need a lot more colors. If you're going to use these markers with a more watercolor style, it's okay to go with fewer colors that you really like. And the brush tip is really nice because you could get a variety of strokes with it. You could get a thicker stroke or a thinner stroke depending on the pressure you apply. And it's really convenient, especially if you like to letter or do calligraphy. You can definitely make the most out of this tip. And the markers blend by themselves pretty well. Like here you can see I'm trying to blend in red, orange, and yellow. And they blend surprisingly well on their own even without adding water. And I also did a couple of swatches on watercolor paper. I applied like a bit of the marker first and then I spread it out with water. And some of the colors tend to stick a little more and keep the original stroke, but a lot of them blend pretty easily. So yeah, this is how I do the swatch. So I swatch the color in first and then I take my water brush and then I try to spread it out and see how it looks like when it's lighter. Actually works quite well. And you can also blend with this technique. I'm going over with a darker green and then a more medium green in the middle. And then finally a yellow green for the lightest part. And then I'm going to glaze over everything with a water brush and yeah, the colors will blend out pretty easily. And another way to use it is also to kind of brush the colors on a plastic palette first, or any palette that has a non-porous surface. And then take a water brush and like apply it like watercolor. And this is really useful for getting lighter colors. So you can get like fewer markers and just the bright and saturated colors, and then if you need lighter colors, you can just spread them on a palette first. One disadvantage, however, with these markers is that it's kind of difficult to cover in a large area really smoothly, but it's not really the marker's fault, it's just the nature of it being water-based. As you can see here, the purple kind of starts to develop this cloudy texture and the area gets bigger. So I don't think it's a true Copic alternative because with markers you'll want to get even coverage for really big areas. But I think if you're going to use it as a watercolor marker, you'll love it. Because the colors are really vibrant and they spread quite easily and they blend well. And also if you're interested in adult coloring books, these are really nice too because of the tip. You can color in thinner areas or thicker areas really well. So in this demo, I'm going to show you the different ways to use it. So the first off was I just spread the colors onto the palette because I wanted to lightly cover all of the areas just to see if the colors work with each other. The colors are pretty bright, so it's not like your artist grade watercolors where the colors look more realistic. I think it's because these are they have a dye instead of pigment, so the colors really tend to be brighter. And it's nice depending on the look that you're going for. That's why with this demo, I'm going with a I'm going with the Little Red Riding Hood illustration, so I kind of wanted to have a childlike bright charm. The Zig Green colors dilute pretty easily, but well, you can't really get a lot of the solvent out on the palette at once, so you kind of have to go back and like add pigment again to the palette, and yeah, it's a bit tedious, but it works. And as you can see, like the red of the cloak actually spread to her arm, and one thing to note is that these markers, they spread like crazy in wet surfaces, unlike pigment-based watercolors, because these are dyes, so they, I think reticulate is the term. They reticulate quite easily. But I just fix it by like making the red on her arm a sleeve. And then later on, with this grass, the technique I'm doing is I'm kind of outlining the blades, and then I go back and blend. Same with the trees. So it leaves a faint impression of the original line, but then you blend it out with water so that the result is softer. Then with the leaves, I add like the darker green and then the darkest green, and then I blend it out with the yellow-green base color and the medium green color. And that's also another way to kind of blend the markers, to introduce another color. And for some parts like the branches, I didn't really blend it out anymore. I just kept it as it is because the branches were really that dark. And with the cloak too. So there was less water and more of the dye. What I like about these markers is that they're very versatile. You can use them in different ways, like with the palette to get the lighter colors, or draw first and then blend out with water, or just draw with it and keep it that way. One of the challenges I encountered in using these markers was you have to be careful what paper you use. Because for me, I used rough Arches paper, and Arches paper is nice because it takes water in really easily, but I feel like rough paper isn't the best kind of paper to work with these markers. The dye quickly gets in the rough texture and it gets a bit difficult to spread. So I'd probably recommend using cold press paper with these markers the best, because with hot press sometimes the strokes stick a lot and that's not good too. So cold press is like a good in-between. But overall, I really enjoy working with these markers. They kind of give a different look from the art I usually do. But it's very bright and it's very vibrant and it's convenient. I think that if you do adult coloring books, or you do very bright children's style illustrations, or if you sketch on the go, this product will be really good for you. So yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I do weekly videos of speed paints and sometimes art product reviews. So thanks for watching!